The government wants you to keep spending money. Sorry, the actual script says the government needs you to spend more money. Oh well, holy smokes, folks. This is mind-blowing. I just calculated how much less money every single person would have to spend in the United States economy to basically put the United States in a recession. And it's scary because it's not as big as I thought. Maybe a potion will cure this one. So in today's Meet Kevin report, we're going to go through number 1, what creates a recession? Number 2, how much our economy would have to shrink for us to be in a recession, and how much less you would have to spend to put us in a recession. And folks, that's the scary part on today's Meet Kevin report, where I do videos that make you money. So this morning on my way to a rental property that I'm fixing up, I stopped at Lowe's to look for some more respirators. I actually ended up getting some filter cartridges, and then I thought about going to Starbucks. But then I remember that Starbucks is no longer allowing people to bring refillable cups because of the outbreak that's going around. And I got to thinking, you know what? I don't want to be part of that system or the outbreak. I don't want to catch anything at Starbucks, so I'm not going to go to Starbucks. And that got me thinking, wow, I wonder how much every average American household spends at Starbucks. And so I pulled up their earnings report and divided it out by the number of households in America and realized that every single household, whether you spend money at Starbucks or not, fun fact, spends 36 cents at Starbucks per day, which means you spend just shy of $11 per month as a household at Starbucks, whether or not you even drink coffee. That even includes the Mormons in Utah, who I don't believe drink coffee. So then that's kind of what got me going down this rabbit hole. So the first thing I realized is we have to define what a recession is. A recession is basically 2 negative quarters of GDP, which is technically defined as the total value of all the gas produced in our country in a year. Gas stands for goods and services, so the total value of all goods and services or gas is what creates GDP. So in other words, a recession or 2 quarters of negative GDP is just a really fancy, complicated way of saying that for half a year, we have less gas as a country. We's deflating. So in 2017, America's GDP was $19.5 trillion. And in 2018, our GDP went up to $20.5 trillion. And in 2019, our gross domestic product was $21.4 trillion. You can see that between these years, we had a growth of between 4 to 5% every year, which is pretty good. Now, in order to get the United States to go into a recession, we have to know what rate we're growing at to sort of predict what our GDP will be in 2020. Kind of the velocity that we've got going forward, like how fast is the train moving, so that way we know how much we have to slow it down to make it go backwards, in other words. So let's assume that there's no outbreak, there's no alien invasion, and the train keeps moving, and it's gonna keep moving at 4%. Well, 4% of last year's gross domestic product would mean the United States economy is going to grow by about $857 billion this year, which means for us to make that number negative, we have to have $858 billion basically disappear. In other words, a little bit more than $857 billion of growth has to disappear, thanks to some black swan event, a catastrophe, an outbreak, or whatever. Well, this is where it gets really interesting. See, you might think, okay, Kevin, well, if we just need $857 billion to leave the economy, let's just divide that number by the total number of households, and there we go. We could stop watching the video. But it doesn't work that way, because the real number is much smaller, thanks to the velocity of money, or the multiplier that the effect of every dollar we spend has on the economy. That's the scary part. So let's get into the scary part. Check out how crazy this concept of the velocity of money is, and then you're gonna see how nuts it is, how quick of an impact we can have on the economy if we stop spending, which is really, really scary because when there's an outbreak, and even if we're just slightly fearful, we could literally be creating our own crash. Watch this for example. Let's say I create these daggers for a living, and I make 100 of them for $1 a piece. That means I've generated $100 of manufacturing productivity. Then I give them to a wholesaler. They charge me $100, that's $100 of wholesaling. Then I send them to retail, they sell them for $1,000, that is $10 a piece. That's $1,000 of retailing productivity. Now throw in $50 for shipping, $50 for my healthcare, $50 for financing for my business, and $150 for stuff I spend on housing and entertainment and other things. If Daggerland were a country, I would have a gross domestic product of $1,500, which, wait a minute, the daggers were selling for $1,000 or $10 a piece. That already includes the amounts like wholesaling and manufacturing, right? Well, enter the velocity of money. The velocity of money says that every dollar along the way gets counted because it gets used in production. So gross domestic product is actually a multiplier of every dollar that's used. This is why I started the video with the government needs you. For every dollar that you decide to save instead of spending, and imagine if everybody in the country does that, you're actually creating a massive ripple effect through the economy, and I'm gonna give you the exact formula right now. And we're gonna start by going through the average consumer's spending so we can figure it out together. According to the USA Today, in 2018, the average household spent $3,154 on food away from home. That's like Red Robin or Jamba Juice, right? I used to work at both those places. The average American household also spent $484 on alcohol per year, $1,803 on clothing per year, $9,049 on transportation per year, and $2,913 on entertainment per year. But now, let's say there's an outbreak and all of a sudden things go crazy and we decide, you know what? We don't want to go to restaurants as much anymore. Well, what's gonna happen to our spending? Well, let's think about that. According to the USDA, Americans have food away from home 4.2 times per week on average. And let's now say we cut that down by 30%. So in other words, instead of going out 4.2 times per week because there's an outbreak and we're scared, now we're only gonna go out 3 times per week. Gosh, imagine if we cut that down to 0. But let's just go with cutting it down from 4.2 times per week to 3 times per week. Yeah, we'll just go with 3 times per week. That's about a 30% reduction. But then you would be spending a little bit more money on food at home. So let's just say, to balance those two things out, that you end up spending 25% less on food away from home. 25% less on food away from home is a reduction of about $788.50. But now let's say you also spend 25% less on alcohol because now you're going out less. That would save you an extra $121 per year. And since you're going out less, you're probably gonna also spend 25% less on entertainment. Because, well, again, you're out and about less. You're at home watching Netflix and chilling, which is a lot cheaper per dollar of entertainment. It's really inexpensive. Well, 25% less on entertainment would save you another $728.25 per year. Now, since you're also out and about less, let's say you spend 10% less on transportation and on buying stuff, like daggers, because you're not out and about. So 10% less spending, less daggers, seems to make sense. Well, now if you reduce your transportation and your retail spending, your spending buying stuff by just 10% more, and then we bundle this all together, you'll end up saving $2,722.95 per year as a household. There are 128 million households in the United States times 2722. Ooh, wait a minute. That's only $348 billion. So we're not in a recession. If every household spends $2,722 less, we're not in a recession. Wait, enter the velocity of money. In order to analyze the velocity of money, we're gonna go back to the Bureau of Economic Research in the United States and look up the actual nasty and complicated table that shows us the breakdown of how GDP is spent. But instead of trying to fully understand this, let's just scroll down and go to my favorite part of the chart, which is where I condense the complicated economic spreadsheet into a spreadsheet that's a lot easier to understand. Basically, what I highlighted in green is the stuff we spent 25% less on, which is entertainment and food away from home. The stuff I highlighted in yellow is the stuff we spent less on in terms of retail and business spending, like retail spending. And then since there's an outbreak, I ended up highlighting healthcare in red, assuming that we're gonna spend about 10% more in healthcare as well. Now, obviously, calculating the actual velocity of our money is much more complicated than this. Like, there's a difference between M1 money and M2 money, but it's really interesting to see what happens if all we do is make these yellow sections fall by 10% and the green section fall by 25%. Look what happens to our GDP. It's crazy. Mostly because a fall in 10% for retail and manufacturing and wholesaling, and a fall of 25% for recreation, entertainment, and eating out doesn't seem that unrealistic, especially during an outbreak. But remember how we got to this. We said, if the average American household goes out to eat just one less time and spends a total of 25% less on food away from home and entertainment and recreation, and spends just 10% less on retail and transportation, these are the numbers we get. And so back to the chart. When we hit enter, we get a net loss to our economy of $911 billion. In other words, if every American household reduced their spending by just $2,722 per year, or $226 per month, the United States economy would fall into recession. Which, since there are an average of 2.6 people in each household, every single person would only have to spend $87 less per month, and the United States economy would fall into a recession. So, is it possible for an outbreak to cause you to spend $87 less per month? You might be causing a recession. Thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to check out the links down below for my awesome programs on finance, psychology, money, and real estate. Also, if you want 2 free stocks, 2 totally free stocks, check out the link down below for Webull. Webull is going to give you 2 free stocks valued up to $1,400 if you deposit just $100 with their investment platform. If you use that link down below, you'll also be saying thank you to me, and that I will also be thanked by Webull for you joining their platform and them giving you 2 free stocks. Thanks so much for watching this video. Follow me on Instagram, and until next time.